Thank you for joining this call tonight, where we're going to learn from the pioneer of tire recycling in Nigeria, my friend and sister IFEDOLAPO RUNSEWE. Can we give it up for her? Can we just put up virtual claps? We're excited to have her here. Come share her knowledge and insight with us. I don't see people clapping. No. Where are my claps?
There. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the love. Besides being the pioneer, person for tire recycling in Nigeria, she has a background in banking. She had worked in several notable banks in Nigeria, including Zenith, GT, and Access Bank. And then she's going to tell us what made her leave banking today and come to tire recycling, right? But so far, she's been able to transform that landscape in Nigeria, and she's spearheaded eco-friendly waste collection initiatives. One of the things that she's done that I'm very excited about is the fact that she's been able to establish a network of waste tire suppliers. So this is a great time to be here if this is something that you're looking to get into. There's so much that she's achieved, so much. Recently, they launched a flip-flop brand, showing the rich culture and heritage of our country from tire, from raw products, made from tires. I'm sure she will shed more light on that. So welcome so much. Welcome. If you want to learn more about her LinkedIn profile is in the chat. So you can click on it. Please click on it so you can follow her work and learn many more things about IFEDOLAPO and free recycling. I am your host, Miriam Lawani. I have been an active recycler for over 7 years. I run Green Hill Recycling, and we've been up to so many great things, including starting this, creating this platform where people who are new into the space can learn, can mitigate some of the challenges and learn how to navigate recycling better. That's truly how this whole idea began, and we're very excited to see that we're adding value. I see people from Uganda, people from all across the world, and we're so grateful to have you. Thank you so much. So let's give it up again for our guest speaker, IFEDOLAPO.
Woo! Good evening, everyone. It's such an honor to be here, and honestly, I have to just comment what's the platform that you're creating here. I think it is important that when I hear people like you who have been in this for about 7 years, you're my senior in this sector, and I see as well that Dr. Oladoke is on this call as well. It's quite interesting what has happened over the past couple of years in the sector, and it could only have been possible. It wouldn't have been possible rather with people like you, venturing into the space. Us seeing that there are people that are already doing this and they're doing it successfully, and then you begin to look closely at the other opportunities that exist. So thank you very, very much for the opportunity to be here today to share my the experience that I have. It's a story worth telling, and I think it's important that we share that with other people who are looking to also go into the waste management, waste recycling sector, the circular economy in general. There's a huge opportunity, and there's a lot that needs to still be done. So yeah, good evening once again, everyone. My name is IFEDOLAPO RUNSEWE, and I'm the founder and managing director of Free Recycle Limited, a pioneer waste tire recycling company here in Nigeria. It's been an interesting journey so far for us at Free Recycle. This is our 4th year of business, and every now and then we were reminded of, we quite often, despite the challenges, we always have to remind ourselves, why is it exactly that we're doing what we're doing? And for us, we're impact driven. We're very, very particular about climate action. But while doing that as well, how can you touch on other things, other pain points in economies like ours here in Nigeria, like we have generally in Africa, which is also creating employment and also social impact as well, impacting on our local community. So basically, that's one of the things. I mean, those are basically the things that pushed us, or that prompted, the curiosity to want to go into waste recycling, to see the value that we can extract from waste. According to Nigeria, there was a report that was done by the Nigerian government with UNDP. It's called Imagine Nigeria Report, and it was estimated that Nigeria's green economy is worth over $250 billion.
Please say it again. Say it again. Say it again. I did not hear.
According to a Nigerian government and UNDP's Imagine Nigeria report, it's a report called Imagine Nigeria Report. They estimated that Nigeria's green economy is worth over $250 billion. And this is how much that I think we're still missing out on, because our government, we fail to see the need to formalize the waste sector. We have states like Lagos that has been able to achieve something, to formalize their waste sector. There's still a lot of work to be done. But then just imagine, we're generating about 32 million tons of waste annually in Nigeria. I'm sure that is more, because this figure was from back in 2021, I believe. As at now, I'm sure our population has grown. And so you can only imagine this is what we are sitting on that is not being properly explored. I mean, we're doing the bit that we can have free recycle, green recycle as well, and other recyclers that are in the space. But there's just so much that, we are yet to tap into. So just without, boring you with my talk, I just want to share what our experience has been like, what I think people should be looking at if they intend to also go into waste tire recycling. And for us at the beginning, I've always shared that the reason why I picked Tyre was because I'd experienced what it felt like being in an environment where tires were being burnt. And I have kids who are very sensitive, who have severe allergies, and I observe and see what happens. And even up until now, where I stay, despite the sensitization that we've tried to do around us, awareness, I still have tires being burnt just right across the street from me, because people want to access the steel in them. So yes, the emissions from the burning of tire was what prompted. But then when you also look at the tire, it's very versatile. There's the rubber in it, there's the steel in it, and there's the fiber in it. All three of these things. It's very different from when you are recycling, say maybe something like PETs, where you know that you're basically working with plastic. But in tires, you're working with three different materials. You have those three things. And we started out with processing of the rubber into rubber molded products, flooring solution, insulation material. And then gradually, we also had to start looking at what we could do with the steel, because then we had our steel and our fiber, just piling up. And we had to think about it. Instead of selling this thing as scrap, what can we do? We had requests for the steel, especially from outside of Nigeria, if we could export them. But of course, we're faced with the bottleneck from customs, when customs told us that the steel was classified as scrap, and hence why we couldn't export that. So that prompted us again to have to invest in a technology that will allow us to process the steel into like a semi-finished state, ingot, and that way it is no longer classified as scrap, and you can export it, and you can also sell locally. And then the fiber, through a partnership with one of our cement manufacturing companies here in Nigeria, the fiber goes to them. It has a calorific value, and the fiber is being utilized for energy in their cement manufacturing process. So for us, the tire it's been very, very interesting. Every now and then we stumble on new uses for the tires. And R&D is one of the things that we are very, very big on. It has cost us a lot of money, but we keep on, just putting more money into it to see where the opportunities are, and possible technologies as well. So for me, if you're looking at tire recycling, I would have to say that we understand that tire recycling is an essential component of sustainable waste management. And like I mentioned a while back, every year, millions of tires. In the case of Nigeria, last year alone, 2023, over 2 million tires were imported into Nigeria, because currently no one is manufacturing, car tires all the way up. I think we now have some companies, Chinese companies, that are manufacturing tires for keke and motorcycle. But for your cars, your trucks, all the way up, rather, they are imported into the country. And so every year, millions of these tires, they are discarded, presenting both environmental challenge and a business opportunity. And recycling these tires can, as we know already, reduce landfill waste, lower our greenhouse gas emissions, and also provide raw materials for various industries. I think to go into tire recycling, if I had to do this all over again, although sometimes you have to go into it first before you begin to open your eyes to other opportunities that exist in there. But I'll be very, very open and very transparent here. Waste tire recycling, whether you are doing pyrolysis or you are crushing like we are doing into granules, is very, very capital intensive. I've shared this a number of times that it's not something that can be funded with, you can't fund it out of pocket due to the level of investment that is required. From inception to date, over $4 million has gone into full recycle for purchase of machineries, purchase of different equipment, from the crushers to the molding line. We currently have 3 molding lines. We have 2 lines on our towel line. We also have a mat line. Then you have the steel equipment as well. And, other add-ons that has allowed us to continue to develop new products. However, there's a business opportunity, but it just all depends on the strategy that you can use to get into the market. Like I said, if I was going to do this all over, I would probably have started with strictly recycling, because it took us actually starting the business before we realized that there's actually a market for the semi-finished state of the product. The semi-finished state being the granules alone in different sizes. Even the granule, remember I said the fiber goes to a cement manufacturing company, but what they actually need, what has more calorific value for them and is more efficient for their power requirement, is the rubber. It is actually the rubber. So if I could go back 4 or 5 years when we were in the business development stage for this business, I would have started with strictly recycling and then sell the semi-finished products either for export, because also the rubber granules, they are being imported into Nigeria. People utilize them for athletic tracks. People utilize them as mulch in even agricultural sector. People also use them for under their astroturfer as well in athletic track construction, stadium, and whatnot. And then you also have the people who derive the black carbon from it to use in the cement manufacturing space, or what's it called? Mostly in the cement manufacturing state. So you have to just look at it critically, and also dependent on how much capital you are able to raise to say, okay, this is what I want to start with. But then we run an IRM model. IRM basically means it's an integrated recycling and manufacturing. It was quite ambitious at the time, hence why I'm saying if I had to do it again, I would probably have started recycling first, and then maybe by my 3rd or 4th year of business, then start looking at the manufacturing side of it. But then we've gone into it.
Sorry, when you say strictly recycling, like recycling first, what does that mean? What do you mean by that?
Okay, what I mean is that you just simply break down the tires, you extract your rubber, you sell as it is, granulated rubber. Your steel, you sell as scrap. Then your fiber as well, you can sell maybe to a cement manufacturing company. So you're not producing anything, because manufacturing is where the pain, that's the main pain point. And I speak for everybody manufacturing in Nigeria. It is not even just about the recycling sector. It's a general, I don't know how people do it, because sometimes I don't even know how I do it myself. The different challenges that we are faced with every day on the manufacturing side of the business, such that, we've had to re-strategize. Last year, we had a phase in which we had to shut down one of our lines because it was labor intensive. It also required the most raw materials, but yet, because of the issues that existed with FX, because one of our raw materials is actually being imported, the polyurethane binder, we import it, it's not manufactured locally. So we had to just re-strategize to say, okay, you know what, let's make this line strictly by order. Only if you order for it, then we will produce. So we had to, of course, it then meant that we also have to let some people go, because I can't keep people who are not manufacturing. So we just identified our low-hanging fruit and we stuck to that. Whereas if I was just crushing and I was exporting, there's demand for rubber granules all over Africa. Construction companies are also beginning to introduce it, mix it with asphalt for road construction. there's a huge demand for rubber granules.
So
right, and you
can. So sorry, because this is so interesting. So
yeah.
people on this call, who are ambitious or interested in going into the tire recycling space can actually come in as, strictly recyclers. They don't necessarily have to produce, they can start off at that point. They don't necessarily have to produce the flip-flops or the doormat or the paving stones that you guys produce, right? That's what you're trying to say. So they can enter, that is one entry point. They can enter as, strict recyclers of these tires, and they could even export and get FX for it. Correct?
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Yes. So I mean, if we're done that had so much potential at the time that we didn't even realize. But of course, I'm not going to discredit the manufacturing side, because quite honestly, the recognition that we've gotten, the international features that we've had, was basically all around the fact that we were actually using the rubber granules to manufacture something new. But when you go behind all the, that was the big story.
You're completing
the cycle.
The cycle.
Yes. But then I'm saying that given how much investment it required, I mean, you're looking at, we have obligations to the Bank of Industry that, and you look at what has happened over the past 1 to 2 years and how hard it is to keep up with the constantly changing interest rates. Of course, there's a way around this. If I'm running the same business, take for instance, in Germany, my tires will find their way to my doorsteps. I'm not going to be paying for my tires. I'll probably be operating in a zone where I'm paying very little for power. I will be getting rebates from the government. I can tap into EPR funding. I probably will not even need to get money from the bank to fund the business. I'll be getting grants as well. But all these things we're not there yet in Nigeria, sadly. We're not there yet in Nigeria.
You just mentioned something now which ties to one of the questions I say in the group. You talked about you getting your tires at your doorstep. So somebody is asking, what is the collection model for your organization right now? How do you collect? How do these tires come to you? See, you don't necessarily get them at your doorstep. Please run us through that.
Okay. So let me go back all the way to the beginning, right? 2018 was where we had started with our business plan. We started shopping around for funding because we already had land. We immediately said, okay, you know what? Oyo State doesn't have a decent, excuse my language, doesn't have a decent waste management system, not to talk of a collection system. So we had just one staff at the time whose job was to find waste tire vendors, aggregators from Oyo State to Osun to Ogun State. We had some tires even coming all the way from Ilorin, from Kwara State. And so from 2019 January, we started collecting these tires. But we're not just collecting, when they bring these tires to us, we're buying the tires, which shouldn't have been the case. But, nobody's going to bring the tires to you for free. You either buy it or you just don't do the business at all. So we started collecting the tires. At the time, we're buying a tire for 70 to 90 naira, depending on the condition of the tire. That was how much we're paying per piece for tires. Now, 2 years into the business was when we started, 2021, we started the ECR program, which is basically like almost the flip side of your EPR. In this program, we developed it ourselves, and our focus was on individuals, on corporates who are, utilizing tires in their operations, in their value chain. And we started sending proposals out to say, please be responsible for what happens to these tires. Let's come on board as your recycling partners. So there was then a shift. We still had tires that we were buying, but suddenly we're not buying tires anymore. We were getting these tires for free, and we were being paid to recycle those tires. So with that as well, that allowed us to also invest in an app. We have a tech app. It's web-based for now. We're looking to move it into like a mobile app, but it's web-based for now. And with this app, we are able to also initiate collection from corporates that we're recycling for, where they can initiate. We can monitor, we can have logistics partner pick up these tires, and then they can also generate their recycling certificate on this app as well. And for me, the most important thing on this app is also to generate data, because one thing that was lacking at the time is Nobody was willing to open up, even with the likes of the big names like Michelin. If you ask them, how many tires did you bring into the country in 2022? There's no transparency about it. They will not answer you. Nobody will answer you. But at least as soon as we started having some corporates on the app, they were being open about it. Before even engaging us, they'll tell you, oh, for last year, we generated over 300 tires. We want you to recycle them. So like that, we started gathering data. And with that data, we've been able to do some really, really interesting things. So those are the two channels that we have right now. We still buy tires and we get some tires for free that we recycle for a token for corporates that we're recyclers.
Fantastic. So you talked about machinery, and all the investments that you had to make. Aren't some of these machineries perhaps locally fabricated or locally, gotten? What would you say to somebody who might not have 4M USD, or something like that? What would you? How can they start small scale? Can they locally fabricate since it's crushing? Is that possible?
I think anything is possible. Nigerians are one of the most industrious, the smartest people. I've not been around the world that much, but in this new age technology where you see what's going on all around the world, I know that anything is possible in this country. All our equipment were imported from Asia, from China. We had some from Europe as well. But looking at this equipment, I'm not an engineer, but I know that it's possible to actually make this equipment in country. As a matter of fact, out of frustration back in 2021, we had to engage a company locally to try and fabricate some of our parts for us. We were successful with some. For some, we were not successful. We tried making our molds, the molds we used to mold our tiles locally in country. And I literally just watched about 6 million naira go down the drain for fabrication of one mold. And we couldn't make use of the mold. We took the mold to Dana. They were supposed to help us make additional molds for our molding because the tile molding line has the capacity on it is slightly low. And we had a huge demand at that time. So we said, okay, let's try and do this locally. And 6 million naira just gone like that because they couldn't just do us the mold. But interestingly, we've also had successes in being able to fabricate some things, and even also out of desperation as well. We found ourselves utilizing the rubber, the tires, the molded tires, utilizing them for conveyor belts. And this is also a business that some tire recycling companies outside the country, in Europe, in America, they do. They just, recycle those tires into conveyor belts. There's a technology for it, but all these technologies, they're quite expensive. I mean, when IFADs together, we saw the price tags on this equipment. Anything is possible. But so with fabricating equipment locally, we had engaged Naseni. I think that was last year. In fact, I think they reached out. We just need, I think it's going to take participation of the government and the private sector. I know for a fact that Ethiopia, as we speak, they are trying to start the production of tire recycling equipment. It's being funded by their government. The question is, why is our government not able to do that? Why are we taking our money to China to go and buy equipment? Why are we taking our money to Europe to go and take equipment when we have people that all you need is to provide them with the resources and they will fabricate this equipment?
So, I mean, that just, as you speak, I can feel the pain. Like you were talking about, the major headache is around closing the loop. When you actually do want to manufacture, that is where you might face the headache the most. Interesting conversation. Even I mean, some people are making comments. Somebody asked, like, so how much is the value? How has this sector evolved over the years? If at some point when you started about 4 years ago, a tire used to cost maybe like 90, 80 naira, how much do you buy one tire today? Do you still buy it at that rate? Because we've seen the pet, space boom. So is that applicable in the tire recycling space as well?
Yes, it is. Passenger car tires is about 300 to 400 naira per piece.
Oh wow!
Truck tires, yes. That's how much we pay for one tire.
Oh wow!
Truck tires, the really massive truck tires, we are not buying those because we collect them from one of the companies that we're recycling for. But I know that people will buy passenger car tires. The companies into paralysis, the passenger car tires, it's they're sweet. That's what they want because it has more rubber in it, and I think very less, much more lesser artificial. What do you call it? Not there's natural rubber and then there's synthetic. It has lesser synthetic rubber. The truck tires, those ones they are selling for as high as 9,000 naira to buy one of those truck tires.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Well, I mean, please tell us. When you do the maths at the end of the day, you get money, right? As in, you can recover this cost, right? So my people, don't sleep on this, you know, because yeah, please go ahead. Say.
You can definitely recover the money, but let me stress this. Over the past 2-3 months, I've had the opportunity of being on panel sessions, and I keep saying this, and I'll keep stressing it. Investment into recycling generally requires patient capital. I have just broken even after 4 years in business. It's just this year that we're looking to break even, right? So first of all, please do not make that mistake that I've made. I keep saying it. We've made the mistake so that you don't have to make it. Please, you have no business borrowing from a commercial bank to fund a tire recycling business, especially. Maybe for every other type of waste you can get away with this, but for tire recycling, I'll tell you my power bill every month, if I am working at full capacity, is almost 10 million naira. Wow. Because I have ovens running. I have ovens on my towel line. I have ovens on my mat line. So it can be profitable. That's what I'm saying, that it's a case of pacing oneself. If you want to start with the recycling part of it, there's a huge market, like I said, for the rubber granules. There's a market for the steel. That is why those malams, they keep burning the tires. It's the steel inside. That's what they are looking for. That's what they are looking for. So you can start with that, and then gradually, as you go on down in the business, you can then start integrating manufacturing into it as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. I hope you're taking your notes. I hope you are writing, right? So a bit about safety. You know, I mean, we've talked about how we can come in, the best entry point into the space, start as a recycler, you know, and then you can then evolve into manufacturing, because truly and truly, when we say recycling as a core is when, you know, you are able to complete that value chain, right? Which is what you are doing. But we've identified that it can be capital intensive, and so that you don't burn out and get discouraged, which is what, you know, that's why this whole vision started. We see that people come in, they don't have enough information, they burn out and they run away, you know. So that you don't burn out and get discouraged, you've heard it now from the experts, you can start by, you know, recycling and exporting. So how can we, what are some of the safety innovations? What are some of the things we need to look at and be conscious of around safety when it comes to tire recycling, both to our health, to our manpower, you know, those sort of things? Please just talk to us a bit about that. Thank you.
Okay, so for our own process, which is basically a shredding and granulation, right? There's very minimal. I'm not going to say there's no safety concerns in the production process. Of course, there is, especially when you are grinding or you are crushing to the finer rubber granules. If not properly handled, there's risk of that being inhaled. Hence why we always advise that we always insist rather that our workers on the factory floor, they have their nose mask on. Thankfully, our system does not involve any sort of burning at all. It is strictly a granulation process and a separation process of the different materials in the waste tires. And of course, on the crushing line as well, it's a big equipment. So of course, you have places where you want to be cautious. I'm going to be honest with you. We've had accidents on the factory floor. And, you know, even when you put the signs there to say, do not stick your hands in here, do not do this, that still happens because people come to work. They could be distracted. It could be this, it could be that. So accidents do happen. But in the past 4 years, I think we've only had one of such accidents, unfortunately. And I wish we didn't even have that at all. But then it happened. But it has forced us to go back, you know, to the table to look at our processes again. And let me also state something. We cannot do it alone. No. I have had to rely on partners, strategic partners. We've had the likes of APMT donate PPEs to us, and also invite us for safety HSC courses. We also have BizEdge as well, one of our strategic partners as well, at no cost at all. So we understand that sometimes due to the cost implication, especially in this our sector, we try to find a way around things. But when it comes to people's health, people's lives, you cannot joke with such things. So sometimes we are forced to look outside to say, okay, who can actually come on board to help with this? Who can donate to this cause? Because I still consider us a startup, right? In this journey, and we are in a green space, not green as in green, but a space that is relatively a sector that is still very much new. I mean, some 30 years ago, I don't know, recycling wasn't something that you would hear, not here in Nigeria. So this whole boom that we've had in the recycling sector, for me, I think it's mostly been within the last 10 years. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And then with the whole conversation around climate change as well. So we keep looking at our system to see what we can make better in terms of, the health and safety of our workers. But like I said, we have very, very minimal emissions because we are not burning. We are mostly grinding. But of course, the materials we work with, unless you actually ingest this, there's no harm to you. The polyurethane binder that we work with as well is from the best. It's the reason why we chose not to buy that material from China. Polyurethane binder is available in China, but we're buying from one person and only one person alone, and that's BASF, which is the biggest chemical manufacturing company in the world. So I mean, there's always room to keep doing things better, but at that very beginning, just make up your mind, because you do not want to get into trouble. And most importantly, you also need to put yourself in a position of people that are going to be doing this work directly, to say, if I'm doing this, what do I need to do differently? How do I protect myself? How do I protect my staff? So yes.
Fantastic. You have a new Mr. Fadere, Michael. So, Mr. Fadere, please connect with IFEDOLAPO on LinkedIn.
I see his question.
Yes.
The pricing for the tire, it is not our fault. Let me tell you the issue with the tires, why the price is low for you. It's the cost of transporting them. If you are able to shred these tires, you can move more of it, and then the price would make more sense. But you can't buy tire at, let's say, 90 naira, and you are paying close to 50 naira to transport it. The margins are too slim, just too slim. And, like I mentioned earlier, if we had a system that worked, or if the waste management sector is properly managed and is formal and all that, we shouldn't even be buying these tires. Let's be honest with ourselves.
People come in from Netherlands to visit our facility, and they were shocked to see that we're paying for recycling. I mean, in developed clients, if you don't pay, you get fined, right?
Yeah,
it's your duty, it's your obligation, So, but I mean, it is what it is. The incentives that we give here really is to encourage behavior change, just for people to behave better, really. Because ideally, people are supposed to be paying you for this service.
Yeah.
But the reverse is the case here. So I think that you guys can have a conversation. One of the things you said you started doing when we were talking was the fact that, you're trying to identify, would I say, shredding sites, places which is something I know that you're working on, places where you can actually crush these tires so that logistics becomes more sensible. I mean, it's not just for tires, even in plastics and everywhere. So maybe Mr. Michael could have that conversation later. Perhaps you want to set up something like that in his facility in Ikiti, where he can become maybe like a franchisee or something for you guys, So I'm sure that kind of conversation can happen after this. I mean, that's the reason why we have this platform, where we can have make those valuable connections, right? So when you're having fun, time just flies by so quick.
It just flies.
Yeah, you were going to say something.
I was going to add something as well.
Yes, please.
Now, the tire-derived fuel space is also something that is huge right now. When we're in IFAT as well, we saw a lot of technology for this, and it has gone beyond when they first started this tire-derived fuel. The process was so crude. You would see in Punch newspaper communities writing petition against those companies that were doing black fuel, tire-derived fuel. But now there are newer technologies, and alternative fuel is a huge, big market right now. It was in IFAT that we actually learned. There was a company that we saw there. I can't remember their name, and they said that it actually is already a technology that can process fuel from tires into aviation fuel. Of course, we know it is going to be very, very expensive, but I'm just saying the tire recycling space is a gold mine. If only we had more support here, we can do things right. And pyrolysis is one of them. It is one of them, right? So, I mean, it's the opportunities are there. And I know it is always dependent on how to fund those things. But interestingly, if you look hard, if you look hard, I wish we had even looked that hard at the beginning. If you look hard, you will actually find the funding. But then an enabling environment is also very, very crucial, so that when you bring in the funding and you set up this business, you are not struggling to survive. But the opportunities are there. There, whether you're, go on, please.
And when you talk about funding, especially now, it's been rumored that a lot of people go into recycling because of grants. I laugh in the face of.
Let me say it now. I was venting and I was complaining to you like last week. Since Free Recycle started, we've not gotten a single grant. Not one. But that is about to change in Jesus' name.
Amen. We talked about it last week as well, to say that please let that not be your motivation. But what I'm trying to say is that more and more, there's, like she said, if you look hard, there is funding because of the consciousness of climate, change around the world. People are investing, angel investors, people are investing into recycling, identifying that this is a proven way that we can manage our waste, right? So if you do the right research, you would find funding. There is funding, but what we're saying is that please let that not be your motivation.
No, let me just say this. I totally agree with you that grant funding is being abused. But when you have businesses like yours and mine, you've been in this now for about 7 years. You are still very much here in Nigeria. You are making that impact. There's clear evidence. There is no reason why you should be able to get those grants. Well, I didn't know much about grants. It wasn't until like this year that, for some reason, we kept on getting mails to say, oh, we can help you access grants. And I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? What's going on? What's going on? And then I started hearing of the opportunities, because you want to dilute your risk as well. We are funded by equity and debt. The part of the debts, there's debt is debt though. So of course you want a bit of grant to come in, to dilute and just to give the business stability. For me, I'm not talking about people who just access this grant and they're not doing anything. Please that's honesty and transparency. If you it has to be there.
It has to
be there. Let me also say something as well. Depending on whatever skill that you're starting your business from, anybody, if someone is calling you small, medium, micro, medium, it is very, very important that you are very, very much accountable, if not to somebody, but to yourself. Some of us, we run our businesses like it's a means to an end, like I totally understand. But if you have a vision, a long-term vision for your business, then there has to be structure, there has to be accountability, there has to be transparency. Since inception, we've had PwC auditors, because this is a long-term thing for me. My goal is to have my grandkids still see free recycle, no matter how much stake I still have in it at some point, but it's not going anywhere. Hence why we've just put in that money and the effort. It's not cheap to have PwC audit you. And I'm not saying you have to do PwC. I'm just saying that let's just do things the right way, do things properly. And then it's also safe. Recycling, there's no instant gratification. If you are looking for it, it is not in recycling. Maybe it's happening for some people, but then
it's not so. Well, I don't know. Like you said, maybe it's happening for some people, but the people that I know that are really doing recycling, that are not audio recyclers, no, there's no. I mean, we've identified, patient capital and no immediate gratification, to be honest. But when you can show, like you said, you have data to show, you can show a track record, you're keeping track of your impact, you're keeping track of your processes, you're making it, you're transparent about it, there are no hidden woo in the matter. You would get people. I mean, we got a call today from an opportunity that we thought had closed. we thought had closed, and they called us. They were calling trial yesterday. Oh, they had to send an SMS. Oh, we're calling for so opportunity. I was like, oh, okay. You know, money is pursuing you when you are not when you are looking for money. You know, so these things matter. You know, no matter how small, wherever it is, however you think you're starting out, record, keep your numbers, keep your data. That was one mistake we made. You know, we went in passion. You know, it's just passionate and just passioning away. You know, and at the very beginning, we're so excited. We've collected one jumbo bag, or we've collected one. You know, yes, we're write it down in a book or something like that. But technology has enabled us to move beyond those kinds of record keeping now. You know, you're able to track every part of your business, numbers you're collecting, impact that is making, you know, what that translates to, because those are the things that grantors are looking for, to be honest, you know. I see you smiling. It's as if you read something that's making you smile. Let me go and read it.
Oh no, no.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, we're almost wrapping up. But I think we have a few more questions that we can just talk about. Okay, you've talked about the market, how to go in, the products we can develop, technology. Aha, please, power. Now, while we're talking, please, while we're talking about, you know, I mean, trying to get, you know, funding to dilute your, you know, your like a blended finance kind of thing to stress. What can we do in terms of power requirements to sort of reduce that burden? I mean, you mentioned how much you spend on power on a monthly basis, but that's up again because you are you know, manufacturing, right?
Okay,
so if someone was to come in as a recycler of tires alone, how can they? What are the alternatives they can explore in terms of power requirements?
So one thing I learned recently is that there might be an opportunity to access funding as well. I'll give you an instance. I think Rural Electrification Agency, there are some programs that they have that we can actually benefit from. It might be difficult, it might be challenging. And I think it's also dependent on what location, where your business is. Because when I was engaging them, one of the questions they were asking is the area you're factoring considered to be a rural area? And I was just in a confused state. I've been running on 80% of my power supply has been from diesel since inception. I run a 500 kVA. I run a 200 kVA, and then I run a 30 kVA. However, we realized that, or we learned that if you connect directly to the 3 kV feeder or something, you can get as much as 20 hours, guaranteed 18 to 20 hours of power daily. Because I wasn't even with trying to get connection in the control room for Ibadan Disco, we were barely getting 4 hours of power daily. And then you had diesel go from beginning of last year, so diesel was 6 something, and then suddenly it went all the way to over 1,000. So right now I have a new transformer which is currently being installed, and I'm just praying that I get that guaranteed 18 hours of power. But we know that this year alone the grid has collapsed how many times. But so there's solar option is also there. But then I'm looking at how do I raise the money to go for solar? Where do I get that money from? I don't know what programs are out there that can fund such things for businesses like ours, alternative power sources, whether even gas is capital intensive.
So it's interesting that you said this, because Dr. Femi and I were on a panel today at Landmark Fund Fest. Yes, I think that's what it's called. And on my panel, we actually had people, well, one particular person who talked about the solution they're providing when it comes to, you know, alternative source of power. They are totally off the grid, and they've been able to create a solution even for big. So for them, they don't even start small, you know, they start up from very large power requirements. So it might be somebody, STEM Afri first, That's the event that we had today. So it might be something to explore, because I mean, Dr. Femi and I were like, Oga, how far?
It requires you to fund at least part of it.
Yes, absolutely.
So if there's a solution that can be deployed at no cost to me, and you're simply charging me what I should be paying to disco instead, you are charging me, I'm fine with that. But the challenge you have is when you have to pay to deploy that solution. Maybe you are getting the gas infrastructure and all that. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. It is. I know they said something about even metering, like having a meter for. Well, I mean, it's something that we can talk about after and explore and see that, because even I on that, and we want to be able to, as they say, have a net zero. Even if we're using diesel, we want to be able to use cleaner sources of energy so that it balances out. Because unfortunately, the climate that we're in, our wonderful country, Nigeria, is almost impossible. We're still running on fossil fuels at a very, a high rate. So at least the little that we can do to balance out, that, okay, sometimes you're running on diesel, but other times you're running on clean and other sustainable sources. So it's sort of, you feel good with yourself to say, oh, you're not solving one problem and creating another.
Another thing we're also doing as well, at least because we generate a sustainability report at the end of every year. So little things sometimes can go a long way, like our admin building, for instance. We're currently looking to, there's a small gen we use for the admin building, and I understand that there's a way that you can actually change this generator, some parts in it, so that you can utilize gas for it. I don't know how safe this is, but I've learned that even for bigger generators like 10 kVA, they're already migrating something in it that allows you to use gas. I don't know if this is safe, but those are also options that one can look at. And if you try it once and you see that, oh, this is what I'm just saying, little things here and there, your security lights, migrating them to solar, taking it off generators and all that. You can just start bit by bit, but ultimately it will be good to have the entire facility either run on solar or run on gas, something much more cleaner than the diesel generator sets that we're currently using.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have just a few more questions to go. I'm sure our guests, our attendees don't want us to end. If you want us to stop the meeting now, please indicate, put your hand up, say stop. I'm tired. But if you don't want us to stop, you want us to go on, please continue. Continue.
You can look at the questions. Yeah, I think there were some questions. You can look at them and then just, try to answer some of them.
Yeah, while you're going through, I want to know, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned going into this space? And maybe as you talk about the lessons, of course, I'm sure there's no way you will not identify some of the challenges, right? You've talked about some of them already. But what are the biggest lessons you've learned venturing into this? And how did you mitigate some of those challenges? One thing that is clear is you keep pivoting, you keep, strategizing, you keep trying different things, to be honest, across every business, really. You keep trying, you try something today, you say, okay, can it be better? That is a given, but through this journey in the past 4 years, what are your biggest lessons? How did you mitigate some of the challenges?
I think there are a number of them. The first one will be in terms of operating the business, and that is that as much as you're coming into the business with passion, you have clear goals as to what you want to do and all that. Do not assume that you know everything. For us especially, we are working in a space where you cannot even go and say, unlike when you're in the bank and you are going to go and poach workers from, maybe you go and poach from one bank to come and work in your bank, because the banking system has been around for a very, very long time, and it is almost similar. They just call the products different name. But in our sector, tire recycling, there was nowhere to poach from. So, of course, everybody was learning on the job. But I would stress that one thing I learned was that there are certain roles that you cannot compromise on. Find somebody that can get the job done. Don't try to do it yourself. Find somebody that can get the job done. And if it requires you paying more than you can afford for that role, what you have to look at is the long-term benefit. for business development, I didn't have a business development person. We were just trying to figure it out ourselves. But maybe perhaps if we had brought in somebody at the beginning strictly for that role at a senior level, we would have gotten some things done differently and would have, gotten the desired result. But trying to do so many things yourself, I know that because you're trying to conserve resources, you're trying to manage your resources, there's a tendency to want to not bring people in to do certain things. But please, certain things you cannot there's some rules that you cannot compromise on, even if it means bringing in a consultant for a period of time, just to at least do it a certain way, so that you can then, you have at least a framework to work with. And then another thing that I've also learned in this space, you have to be vocal about your needs. You have to be very, very vocal about your needs. Some of us have a tendency, and I'll just speak for myself, to, you know that there are things that you require and you should be walking into certain places and knocking on certain doors. It might even be, let me just say this, government can make or destroy your business. And it is time we no longer sit in the corner and just say, let me just be doing my own thing. We need to get involved in the advocacy part. We need to get involved in the policy part of it. And this is one thing I wish that, as we were starting at the beginning, I was, trying my best to also do that as well. But I didn't. I was just head deep into the business, trying to make sense of it, trying to, there was just too many experiments going on. And experiments are expensive. They are expensive. Before you know it, you have millions down the drain. But sometimes you can actually, if these policies, they are there, they are probably even in your favor, but you don't know because you are not asking, you are not checking, you don't even know how to begin to check. But unless you speak, if you do speak, that's when people can tell you that, I think there's somebody you should talk to, go and meet this person. So please, as much as we complain about the government, just keep it in mind that they can make and they can destroy your business. And so for whatever it is that you can get, please, by all means, access it, no matter how small it is. It might be small now, but then as time goes on as well, you would see that it could become something big. Another thing that I've also, in terms of learning things, finding opportunities that can benefit your business. I didn't even know that we could get import duty exemption for our equipment. So at the beginning, we had Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. They were at the facility. They gave us our production day certificates, manufacturer certificates. But I kept on asking, you guys keep coming. What else can I benefit? I don't need this certificate. Yes, certificates, they are important because it means that you recognize that I'm here. But what else can I get? I have equipment coming in. And then someone says to me, maybe you can get import duty exemption certificates to, get, and so that you can bring in your equipment. But then the challenge was now that by the time Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment referred us to Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Finance said there was no category under which they could classify recycling business. Yes. They had no category. After a lot of back and forth, flying in and out of Abuja, going to meet several people, they eventually said, okay, what material are you recycling? I said tires. They said, okay, tires are made from what? They are made from rubber. Rubber is agro products, and then they classified our equipment under agricultural equipment. Wow. So you keep learning, and that was how we got our import duty exemption to bring in our equipment. So it's a continuous learning curve. We can't afford to stop learning, and and learning is how you open doors. Another thing I've also learned is do not underestimate R&D in your business. Like I said earlier, experiment is expensive. Experiment is under R&D. It costs a lot of money, but that is how you can unlock opportunities. There's opportunity for construction materials, expansion joints for construction industry. And then quite recently as well, we started making footwears. And the footwears, they've opened up a lot of opportunities. As of today, we've manufactured over 5,000 school sandals for Access Bank for their CSR projects in communities where they're distributing the sandals to primary and secondary school students. We're also making flip-flops as well. We have APMT, who are one of our customers, buying this as well. So, you R&D, please, as much as you might complain that, they are wasting things, they're just experiment, but it's only by doing it that you can develop new products. So, those are some of the lessons that I have learned. And then also pace yourself. Don't try to do everything all at once. If you keep listening, because even till now, people keep coming to ask us to do this, and I'm like, sorry, this is what I'm making right now. This is what I have right now. The technology that requires for me to make what you're asking me for, are you able to give me prepayment to buy this technology? The answer is always no.
No.
So you just have to be very, very careful. Otherwise, you become overwhelmed, you become distracted, you can't even, you just lose focus. Identify your low-hanging fruits, focus on it first. While you're doing that, you can have things cooking. Every business keeps evolving. You have your version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as long as your business is in existence, but just pace yourself.
Are you guys still sitting down? You should be clapping right now. As in, these are gems that you pay for. These kinds of information, are things that people actually pay for. So I mean, we're so grateful to have you. It's after the top of the hour, but I think we can just do maybe like 5 minutes more. Please, we will drop the link in the group chat. Please do well to fill it, to give us your review. Very short, it won't take more than 3 or 5 seconds, just 3 questions, so that we know the kinds of conversations you want us to engage in. I mean, I see some people from our previous Mr. Sheon Nubi, from our previous call here again today, and we listen to this feedback. So please quickly help us fill out the feedback form so that we know who you want us to bring on board next week to have a conversation. So before we go, I know you're sitting on acres of land, as in Tyre, because all land there's some people on this call that know that story, but it's not for today. That land matter. So for someone who is just beginning, Safed is laughing. For someone who is just coming in, how much space ideally, they want to just be a recycler, no manufacturing yet. How much space would you say they require to come into the space, to function?
So our facility at the moment is on 2.5. So yeah, we're on 5 acres. That should be 2.5 hectares. Yeah. So however, when we started, we're actually initially on about 2 acres of land. The bulk of it was to store the tires that we're collecting, because at every point in time, we always ensure that we have a minimum of 100,000 tires on site, such that if you actually go on Google Earth to view free recycle, you will actually see the tires. There's a satellite view, you will see the tires. That's how much tires we have on site. So if you are looking to store up tires, and that's because, I mean, the equipment that we have, the goal is for us to be able to do as much as 1 million tires annually, but we are not there yet. But we'll get there soon. So if you're going to be storing tires on, we're going to be storing tires on site. I think 2 acres. 2 acres is enough to start with, and then you have your factory floor, depending on the capacity of the crushing line that you're going to be used to process the tires as well. I don't have the dimension of my factory floor right now, but I know we've had to do like some sort of extension because we kind of ran out of storage space. So we've also extended our factory as well. Then you have your offices. The offices, honestly, the land had a property on it. That's why we just maintained our office. But if I were to start from scratch, I probably would have done containers instead, and just done insulation for them, roof, toilet, and all that, because it serves the same purpose as well. So yes, and let me also add one thing. When we're talking about tire recycling, I think I didn't emphasize enough the opportunities that are even in the collection angle of it. It is expensive, but there are opportunities to have equipment that can actually move around and crush this tires on site. That's one of the things that we're looking to also invest in the near future, such that I can just drive to a dump site in Songwater, pick tires there and process it right there and then bag it, and then move around and all that. So if you're doing that, you don't even need that much space.
Exactly. That was what I was about to say. Yeah.
You don't need that much space.
Yeah.
You just probably would need a storage space, and you can get a warehouse for that anywhere and just store, because that model would mean that you're selling your rubber granules as a semi-finished product. So you don't need that much space. Your main equipment would be the vehicle itself. The tire, the mobile crusher itself will be your main investment, and maybe perhaps your storage.
Absolutely. I mean, we can go on and on and on and on. The gems are just gems. Like, Even I am getting, okay, because somebody even asked that as a, as a recycler of all that types of materials, can they incorporate tires to it? I mean, I'm sure you've gotten your answer from all of this that we discussed today. You can decide whether you want to go and carry tires and add to it or not, but I mean, you've shared so much and we can't even begin to appreciate you enough. Like we did earlier, we would reshare IFEDOLAPO's LinkedIn profile in the chat. And I mean, there's so much. An hour is not enough to cover everything that needs to be said. But we hope that this stimulates you enough to want to come into the space, because I mean, we need more players, right? We need many more players. And for free, you have a mentor. I've dashed her to you for free. I know she's very busy. She's traveling from one continent to the other, speaking on one panel or the other. But maybe, with persistence, because, some of the mistakes that she made, now she can sit here 4 years later and say, oh, if I had known, I wouldn't have done this. I probably would have done this differently and all that. But coming under her wings in terms of the mentorship, if you're really, really interested in going into tire recycling, could be a game changer for you. You can avert a lot of mistakes, so you can connect with her on LinkedIn. Admin, they dropped the link. You can connect with her on LinkedIn, and learn more. And then, of course, definitely many more opportunities to engage. Would like to take a photo now, if you don't mind. Please turn on your cameras and smile. Mr. Sheung, you deserve an award. Consistent, consistent, and Dr. Fia, of course. We need to give Mr. Sheung an award. He was here last week. He's here. Oh, Dolapo, you joined. Dolapo, I hope you got value. I hope you got your questions answered.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See my Oga, Mr. Idris. My Oga is here. Our Oga, all of us. Mr. Idris, good to have you. Thank you so much.
Well done, Mrs. Rusha. Well done.
Thank you.
Mr. Dr. Fia, you will not tell me well done.
Good evening, my Oga.
Well done, Miriam. Well done. Well done, Miriam.
Yeah, I'm smiling.
Dr. Sheung Nubi is actually, well done. He's actually one of my people, and he's a waste conversion expert as well, but in the academia.
Thank you, Dr. Sheung. Thank you for supporting.
He's a waste person, and that's why, so that you can understand his interest.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. And just seeing him here supports, encourages us. Thank you so much for being here. So can we smile, please? So thank you so much, Dolapo. I mean, it's just getting hotter. Last week when Dr. Fia was spilling gems, I was like, hey, the shoes that you are opening to be filled, they are getting wider.
They're getting wider.
You're getting wider, but today, I mean, you just shattered the table. So I can only imagine what's going to happen next week. Even I am excited. I can't even lie. Like, I'm so excited because for the longest time, we don't have this platform where people can actually come up and share openly the business side, not the book and the running the business gong. Like I said, these are things that people pay for. Very soon, we start paying for it. So it's okay. Let's start. Let's start now. So please, I charge all of us, implement. Some of us came here just to learn, out of just being inquisitive. But if you're one of those people who actually came here because you want to venture into the space, start today. To be honest, there will never be a perfect time, Start today with some of the things you've learned. You start figuring it out as you're going. This is your mentor. I've dashed her to you for free. She didn't ask me. I dashed her to you. Come under the wings of the people. It doesn't matter how young or how old they are, and just learn. But the first thing to do is to implement. Else, all of this will be a waste, and I know it cannot be a waste. So let us begin to put into practice as this easier and more lucrative. Thank you so much, guys, for everyone who stayed to the end. God bless you. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.